Welcome, my beloved ones. This is And They Lied. And today is Monday, Monday the 19th. This is episode 32. And the past was never dead, it was buried alive. Today we go back to the day that we trace the roots. Because before we understand the chaos of today, we must dig into the rot of yesterday. And the thing is, the past isn't the past. It's alive, pulsating in the bones of our culture, the politics, and our people. And again, this is episode 32, and this is why I've called it, And the Past Was Never Dead, It Was Buried Alive. Oh, sisters, I have really been guided to create a sacred structure. And I really love the flow of it. Today, I won't be coming on camera because this is the past. Love that. Forgetting to turn on off my notifications again. Well, to my sister that just texted me at 9:57 a.m. Good morning, sister. Alrighty, so again, I've been guided to create this sacred structure. Mondays are for the past, Wednesday is for the present, and Friday is for everything that is our future. And I did this because when I saw this come into me, I knew that it's because time is not linear. It spirals. It repeats. So it makes sense that this isn't just a podcast schedule. This is a ritual rhythm, moving with the dragon timekeepers and the earth mothers and the ancient ones. So I want to bring you in today with a little bit of my own truth. And if you've been following me for a while, you know that I was born into chaos. My father, the Hell's Angel, my mother, the club old lady, and I wasn't raised with consistent love. I was raised in survival. I was abused at a very young age, probably even before the age of 4. I ran away at 11, disappearing for well over a year. I was a missing child before I ever had a chance to be a free one. And it brings this thing to me of how people think trauma ends. Oh, that you'll grow out of it. You'll get over it one day. But trauma isn't something that dies. It transforms. And mine transformed into sight. Sorry, my little kitten, he's trying to get into everything. I thought I cat-proofed my office, but apparently he found a singular space I have forgotten to block off. So, thank you. Oh my God. Silly kitten. And one of the biggest things that I have realized is since after my heart stopped, my 3 deaths, I came back with even more visions, more memories, more clarity. And I saw how the personal and the political and the historical and the spiritual are all part of like the same spider webs. what happened to me is essentially what is happening to the land, to the people around us, to the spirit. And in the end, the one thing always rang true. They're just trying to silence me. They're just trying to silence you, just like they tried to silence our ancestors. So let's take a sacred walk backwards. Let's talk about it because today's the past, right? I want to talk about a specific era, which was historically probably the first parts of the historical roots that intertwine with today's oppression. And that would have to go back to the beginnings of colonization and spiritual erasure. The Christian Crusades weren't just wars, they were the soul exorcisms on a global scale. They invaded lands and forced people into conforming to their Christian beliefs. And they did it with fear. And they would even go as far as to have you help burn down your own village, your own altar, to bury their goddesses and silence their tongues. Sacred practices of our earth mother, those of the indigenous people, those of Afro diasporic spiritualities, those of the Caribbeans, those of the Hispanic communities, those were all demonized. But the thing about it is that we didn't lose our spirituality. We were terrorized out of it. This very tactic is what we see returning today through legislation, through censorship, all of this media policing. They're trying again to label our magic as dangerous. But I think that it really is at the root of this is that they have fear. They have fear because what they really fear deep inside is our own liberations, the rebirth of our histories, the rebirth of our cultures, our heritages. And I want to talk about something else that aligns with this. And this is that little weasel, Stephen Miller, and his cosplaying Homeland Security Secretary, Kristi Noem. They want to suspend habeas corpus and do mass incarcerations. And you've heard me talk about the suspension of habeas corpus now. And so this shouldn't be news. So let's talk about past to present. In 1863, Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus during the Civil War. It laid the groundwork for using emergency powers to bypass our civil liberties. Flash forward a little bit more modern. How about post 9/11, the Patriot Act, the indefinite detentions in Gitmo and around the world, the disgusting and inhumane and vile treatment that was done by certain CIA officials during that time period, like the waterboarding, the wiretappings, the no-fly lists. I mean, there was a lot. And then you look at something else that's been going on since the early 60s, even further back, but we're going to go to the early 60s, and that is the black and brown people being incarcerated, that mass detention. And I fear that that will become the master's new plantations. Because now, here in 2025, we are seeing the resurgence of this. These wave of disgusting and absolutely abhorrent executive orders that are all crafted to rebrand slavery, to rebrand silences. It's also to make sure that they have a new way of surveillance. They get to rebrand state control as to each state their own. This isn't a new agenda. This is a continuation of an old spell, the darkest of dark magic that is out there. And in recent weeks, you've heard me talk about the Vatican and the stuff of the divine feminine. How this parallels is exactly how it was in ancient times before the Vatican claimed domain and dominion over the land of Europe. Before it, it was filled with temples for the Earth Mothers, temples for Danu, of Bridget, of Isis, of the Black Madonna, of Hecate. But Rome feared feminine power, as all of them have. And so they bury it. The Vatican sits on the very energy node that is the divine feminine, places of deep frequency and earth resonance. And they built their churches on top of our temples, their altars atop our sacred wells. And they call it holiness. But it's downright theft. Theft of our frequency and of our vibrations. They built walls to keep us from remembering the real goddesses is not one of the outside. She is always within, and she looks like the earth within us. Now, today in 2025, they are beginning to tighten their grip. Look at what they are doing to our sister in Georgia, using her as an experiment, as a human incubator for a child that they say will live. But medical and science know there is no viability. They know the earth is awakening, that the dragon of the ley lines are beginning to stir, and that the vibration of the divine feminine is rising fast. It is coming to every single woman on this planet. And so many are using this time to enrich themselves, but that it will be no more because they are all terrified. And when a system is terrified, they become dangerous. So now let's begin to bridge all this together. The then was that our languages were outlawed, our altars were burned. And how does that resonate today? How do we bridge that? Trump is pushing an English only doctrine, criminalizing bilingual education, and attacking quote unquote un-American spiritual groups. Again, in the past, our ancestors were caged in plantations like animals. And the animals were even treated better than our ancestors. Today, we have children being deported out of our country who don't know what they're being asked. How does a 4-year-old know what to say, what to be, any of this? We don't see as many protests as we should over this. And we are seeing people being detained and held without ever being charged. We're seeing people taken off our streets with a piece of paper that says, I have the authority because the daddy dumpty pants, the shit miser himself, gave it to me. Fuck Donald Trump, by the way, in case you want to come for me. 84, what is it? 8447? Yeah, 80 or 8647. There you go. 8647. Have fun with that. Freedom of speech. Yeah. Back then, in the old earth honoring cultures like mine were called savages. Today, we have our climate warriors who are called extremists because they want healthy air, clean water. Oh my God, you, you crazy extremist, you. We have people like Nestle that want to privatize. Again, I apologize. I gotta learn to turn off these notifications, and I probably still didn't, but did I? I don't know. I can't tell. I hate this phone. Anyways, don't ever get the new Motorola's. They suck. Um, one of the biggest things that I was talking about is how Nestle wants to basically charge you for water, that it shouldn't, they're basically saying that you shouldn't be able to have that as a right of a human being, that it's actually something you need to be purchasing. And so what we're seeing now is like it's not innovation. It is literally ritual repetition by the colonializers and their black magic. But guess what? Every time they do this, their spells are being cracked wide open. Crow confirmation, right? They are being cracked open. They're being seen for what they are. I will bring it out there. You can see some of these practitioners that have had very well-known online success as spiritualists, teaching witchcraft, teaching Wiccan practices that are still, again, meant to control. And I'm not going to mention the name of this person specifically, but the creator of this company, the initials of the company are SG, and the creator herself is one of those that are an a black magic practitioner that are legitimately trying to profit off of your pain and off of your misknowledge, because everything that she teaches in her classes is absolutely stolen work. 100%. So, to my spiritual warriors, my priestesses, my brujas, my two spirits, my dragons in this human skin, hear me. Hear me now. We are not victims of this time by any means. We are the guardians of that memory, of that ancient practice. And we don't look back to stay trapped. We look back to break the cycles, the loops. Our healing circles that we have are counter spells. Our altars are the activators themselves. So if you hear a practitioner tell you, just speak the words activate, deactivate. No, that's a bunch of hogwash, horse shit. Your altar is where the activation happens. You're the altar. And a mere act of saying activate, not activate, when it's already activated in you, is again that spiraled loop of bullshit. Our stories are grimoire pages in the book that is known as resistance. Everything we've survived, from our abuses to the racism to the patriarchy to the abandonment to the systematic exile, all of that shit has prepared us. And it's prepared us not to run this time, not to hide, even though we need to do certain steps to protect ourselves in that. But this is a chance for us to reroot, a rerouting into what is the Earth Mothers, the daughters of. So, how can this podcast today prepare you for Wednesday's podcast? That is where I want to bridge this next part. So now that we've laid down the bones of what this is, now that we've pulled the truth from the dirt and have shaken it out, on Wednesday, we will put it into place and we will pull it into the now. We will talk about the present chaos that is of this beautiful May month of 2025. And I want to talk about the rise of the digital fascism that we are seeing and the newest Supreme Court ruling, which we are currently seeing be completely ignored. So again, that soft martial law is really starting to take effect. The fascism, the authoritarian playbook. And I will again give you some things to continue to look at as it being a piece to this puzzle, and how Trump is not just a man, but he is the mouthpiece of an empire's final act. We will talk strategy, we will talk spirit, shielding, action, alignment, all of that. So with that, my sweet sisters, Let us close with a nice deep breath in and out. Honoring our ancestors with our breath. Wrap yourself in the arms of your ancestors today, sisters. Light a candle tonight, not just for that comfort, but for clarity, for sight, for strength, for courage, for connection. Because the past is not here to haunt us. It is here to hand you the sword. Take it. Because just know, sister, you were not born to bow down. You were born to break cycles. And remember, as always, they all lied. But now we remember everything.